I'm Brian Marrock with Beta USA, and today we're going to walk you through some of the free tips and tricks of setting up your bike that you might not know of yet. All right, so we're first going to talk about the handlebars and the control setup. This is a very often overlooked thing that you can do to your bike to change the entire feel of how you ride, the arm pump that you get, maybe a lower back pain and things that you get that way. It's just the rider ergonomics. It's free. And it's super easy to adjust on your bike. And we're talking about things just like your lever position, whether it's inboard on the handlebar, outboard more, whether it's tilted down a little more, a little up. Depending on your body size and your riding style and your discipline, that position's gonna change, but you really got to experiment with it to find what works for you. The other big thing that's overlooked by so many riders, whether they're a beginner, intermediate, or pro, is your bar position. So Beta actually has 6 different mounting positions in the handlebars. There's 3 mounting holes, and then you can rotate the bar mounts forward or backwards to gain a 5mm forward or a 5mm backward movement. So again, you have the 3 holes with the mounts, ends up being 6 different rider positions. On top of that, just rotating the handlebars forward or backwards, even as much as a 0.5 millimeter, can dramatically change the way that you're grabbing the handlebars and reduce the fatigue and the arm pump that you might get while you're riding. A couple other things that we want to discuss that's free to you. It's a little bit more advanced, but you're talking about setting up your suspension. Now, we're not going to go into the clickers and the rebounds and things like that. We're just talking about the initial ride setup, and that's including your rider sag, which is including your weight of yourself and your riding gear. You want to make sure that you get that adjusted properly at the get-go. And then your ride height on the front forks here, the way the tube sits in the triple clamp. These things can definitely affect the way the bike handles and affect the way that you ride in different types of terrain. So if you're looking for something that's going to turn a little bit tighter and offer a little bit more feedback, you maybe want to raise your forks in the triple clamp here a little bit. Maybe you're doing some high-speed desert and you want a little bit more stability at that high speed. Maybe you drop your forks down and make them flush with the triple clamps here. That's going to offer a much better feedback for those different styles of riding. And again, it's something free and really easy to do. So for those of you that aren't too familiar with rider sag, that's adjusted by the spanner collars on the rear shock here. You have your static sag, which is an unloaded motorcycle on a lift such as this, and then you also set it on the ground. And you're going to get the difference between unloaded and on the ground, and that's going to be your static sag. And then you're going to have your rider sag, which is going to be the difference between the bike unloaded on a stand and on the ground with the rider on it at his full riding weight, including all of his gear. So another thing that's often overlooked is the length of your overall wheelbase, which can be adjusted simply by taking a link out or maybe adding a link to your chain, and you're adjusting how far back your axle sits in the swing arm. Again, real similar to the front end, if you have a axle that's further back in the swing arm, that's going to give you a longer wheelbase, and that's going to make the bike stable at higher speeds. Versus moving the axle forward in the swing arm, that's going to make the bike more nimble in those tighter terrain areas. Another often overlooked thing is just simply the distance that the lever is to the handlebar. And on our Betas here, that's quickly adjustable with a adjuster here on the inside of the lever. You're just going to turn that in or out, and that's going to either move the lever out further or closer into the bar. So a really simple thing also is just the shifter height. The shift shaft is splined, so you can move the shifter up or down to the standard position here when it's unloaded. And that depends on if you have a bigger foot, a smaller foot, maybe you have an ankle that doesn't want to move very easily, you know, a disability or something. You just want to be able to comfortably shift that lever up and down real easily. Another nice adjustment that's often overlooked is the rear brake pedal. Now, you might not think this is super important, but if you're riding with a lot of forward pressure, maybe your foot is resting on that pedal, you might actually be putting pressure on that brake pedal and therefore your rear brakes without even knowing about it. So we talked about the bar position, but what we haven't talked about is the bar bend. So I have 4 handlebars here, a couple with the crossbar, a couple without. At first glance, you might not think that there's a lot of difference to them, but the subtle differences in the height of the handlebar, the bend of the handlebar, and the sweep can make a dramatic difference in how you handle on the motorcycle. Simple things just like the rise and the sweep can make it so that you have more control in high speed or that technical area, or maybe you're fighting arm pump. You might just have the wrong bar bend, and it's highly encouraged to experiment with a couple of different styles to find the one that suits you best. A couple of different options for grips can actually make the difference in whether you're getting arm pump or fatigue. You know, something like a full waffle pattern here can offer you really good grip in a wet condition, or maybe you just have a little bit bigger hand and you want a little bit bigger grip to grab onto. We also have designs like the half waffle. So maybe you have a little bit smaller hand and you just want to get your grip into that waffle pattern. And then for some people, just a full diamond, you know, no waffle. It's just a real thin grip on the handlebar, and allows you to get that nice strong feel, firm feel from the handlebar there. So something else we haven't talked about is your foot pegs. There are so many different styles out there, different cleat patterns, different shapes to the foot pegs, extensions for your ankles, things like that. Depending on your riding style and what you're looking for as far as comfort or safety level, the options are really widely different out there. Something as simple as just the size of the cleat that can go into the foot peg. You can change the height by 5 millimeters, 10 millimeters. You can change it to a sharper peg to get better traction on those muddy conditions. Maybe a little bit wider peg so that it doesn't tear up your boot and grab your boot sometimes. Other options that are really neat on some of the aftermarket is just by simply changing the mounting position of the peg. You can move your peg height up as much as 10 millimeters. A lot of options available in the aftermarket community. Something else we haven't talked about yet is the actual seat that you're sitting on. It's a simple product, but it can change the ride dramatically. And it can encourage you to ride more aggressively because you have a little bit more grip. Maybe you can ride longer because you're not getting as sore. It's just something that's often overlooked and something super simple to change. So we have a couple of different options with your gripper seat covers, your ribbed seat designs, your non-ribbed designs, your seat height, your seat foam density, the shape. There's so many options out there to suit everybody's riding style and body type.